What's up, my cronies, and welcome back to Let's Play Gunman's Proof. This will be the first episode of the Let's Play with actual gameplay in it, and I apologize if the first video was a little boring, but hey, that's just the start of most games, huh? You gotta walk around and do some preliminary stuff, watch a couple cutscenes, before you can actually go out and adventure. And that's just what we're doing. Now watch as I kind of fumble around before I kind of go where I need to, because I didn't really know what to do at this point. All the other episodes, I think I mentioned this in the first episode of Let's Play, but for the other episodes I kind of know where I'm going, so there's a bit less wandering around and kind of exploring, unless I'm purposely trying to go get something. So I guess I'll explain the controls before we get to the first dungeon. Basically, of course, your D-pad walks around. A actually shoots. I know you'd kind of expect it to be Y or something like that, but it's A. L, which I'm not using at this point, is strafing, actually, which is helpful. And as you just saw, I just opened a treasure chest and got some bombs, which are used by the X button. And I always forget I have them, really. I use them on rare occasions, but for the most part, kind of forget that they're there. So A shooting, L strafing, Y is a punch, which I do not use in this video and is pretty dang useless. Here we go, I'm strafing a little bit here. It does help a little bit, but it's a little wonky because there's 8 directions you can shoot as opposed to like 4 directions you can attack in, say, Zelda. So when you're walking around, like, you don't have to worry about which way your sword is going to come out. It's either going to come out forward to the sides, or you're going to turn around and do it behind you. Either way, we've made it to the first dungeon, and I'll keep explaining the controls a little bit before I talk about the dungeon layouts and stuff. There's not much more to go over, just, I guess, the B button. You crouch down and crawl while holding a direction on the D-pad, which I think I did in the first video. And like I said, it's not too useful, but it has its use every once in a while. The weapon I have is just your basic Peashooter. I think, according to the little picture, it's a squirt gun, actually. It's pretty weak and doesn't really kill stuff, and speaking of killing things, I just died. Unlike Zelda, when you die and it's game over, you actually have lives in this game. And I think you start off with 3, I just used 1. Don't worry, it's never really a problem. I think I only die one other time in the Let's Play, and that's because of a little wonkiness of the game. Other than that, that's basically it for the controls. But like I said, strafing and stuff can be kind of wonky because it might lock you on going a diagonal direction when you really want to shoot like straight or to the side. So you have to actually make sure you're holding the direction you actually want to go before you actually hold down the L button. You can hit select to look at maps also whenever you're in a dungeon, or on the world map you can view the world map. And we've come to our first treasure, which is a good segue, because treasure is found throughout all the dungeons in the game, but it really has no practical use. And in fact, in this one, I miss 1 or 2 treasures. It's not that big of a deal, it's just for points, as you can see my score up in the top left. Points don't really matter, just like in Whose Line Is It Anyway? But I think I try, mostly in the later dungeons, to try to fully explore and get all the treasure, just because you're kind enough to watch my videos, and you should get to see the whole game, really. But in this dungeon, like I said, first of all, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just really getting used to the controls and stuff, but whatever. These guys, I think not totally sure, but I think you actually might be able to crawl under their shot. I didn't try, and I didn't even think to try. But basically, that's what you do crawling later. There's something kind of similar to that shooting at you, and you basically just crawl under the shots. We found another treasure, bronze mirror. Nothing too spectacular. Once again, it's just going to give me points, so I didn't really care. Honestly, the little fanfare that plays after you find a treasure is pretty long. So anyway, dungeons in general, as you've probably noticed, when you re-enter a room, enemies respawn, which can get kind of annoying if you come to a dead end or something, and just have to immediately turn back around and deal with more enemies. And you'll also probably notice the lack of locked doors or keys or anything. Yes, pretty much every door in every dungeon is available. And if you know the right way to get to a boss, you can just make a beeline straight for the boss and spend a minimal amount of time in a dungeon. But with all that being said, the layouts are okay. Some dungeons are cooler than others, and actually some of the later dungeons are really linear and straightforward. I think my favorite dungeon is the 4th one, which you'll see, I guess, in episode 5, since we're on dungeon 1 in episode 2, and I'm pretty sure I tackle at 1 dungeon per video from here on out. But I think I noticed a treasure chest, so I figured, why not go get it since it's right there. And I got a different kind of bomb. Like I said, I forget about the bombs mostly. I think the ones I had before, the chrysanthemum bombs, you throw them forward a little bit, and they make a series of explosions that take up maybe a fifth of the screen or something. They're pretty powerful, but as you can see, you have limited amounts. Starmine bombs, I don't really remember exactly how they work. I think they might do a quick full screen attack, not totally sure. But we've come to the end of the first dungeon, actually, and the boss is just right in the next room, with a little marker on the floor, kind of similar to how bosses are in Zelda, or at least in Link to the Past. I believe some bosses were marked like that on the floor. So here's the first boss of the game. A little totem pole named Miracle 5, whose dialogue seems to be kind of inspired by Jar Jar Binks, using the words Misa and Yusa, for example. And apparently his body is ready, since he said he's gonna crush us with his body. And hopefully our body's ready as well. Now this is a pretty easy boss. I'd say it's the easiest boss in the game, obviously since it's the first boss. But I will say that for being the first boss, it kind of takes a while. Because like I said, you're limited to just your Peashooter, and it doesn't really do a lot of damage. And each of his little segments seems to have quite a bit of HP. So this actually is probably the longest fight in the game. Because, I mean, you get stronger weapons later on, obviously. And one of the weapons, which we'll see, I think, in the... by the time we get to the 3rd dungeon, I think? Yes. After we finish the 2nd dungeon, before the 3rd, we have access to what is probably the most broken weapon in the game that I pretty much go for every chance I can. But we'll see that when we get there. It basically makes bosses into a joke, though. A little trick you can do against this guy, though, when his totem pole segments are lined up like that, you can fire a charge shot, like, right through them and do quite a bit of damage for this point of the game, I guess. Another thing that makes this boss take a while is, as you saw, I just kind of stood there while he was restacking himself. You cannot damage him while he's restacking his parts. Here you can attack them as soon as they land, but when he's restacking, you have to wait for him to be completely reformed and actually start moving before you can attack him. Which also just adds to the length of the fight. See there, I tried shooting at him, but nothing happened. Okay, we're down to just 2 parts left. Hopefully they'll go down soon. Look, he looks like he's in pain when he's actually sending them out to attack us. Looks up and kind of shouts at the sky. It's actually kind of sad. And it's also sad because he's so easy, but we just need to put him out of his misery, I guess. Alright, one more piece, which I'm pretty sure I've dealt quite a bit of damage to already. And then after that we'll have to deal with the head, which will go down without a fight, really. Like, basically after you kill all 4 parts, the head is a joke, really. As a few of the bosses in this game are, like, they seem to be doing some final attack or having some final form or something, but then it's something pathetically weak and they just die. And he mentioned his body before, but I just kind of assumed those 4 pieces were his body. And I actually thought that's kind of funny how he has that little tiny torso and legs and arms pop out from underneath that giant head. And he goes down without a fight, and we get our first Demi-Seed crest, which, depending on how closely you paid attention to the information in the first video, it said when I visited the sheriff, when I beat a boss and get a Demi-Seed crest, I take it to them and they give me a reward for whatever boss. And also, as we'll see, he will give some information about where to go next. So after you beat a dungeon, you get these little screens that show you all the treasure you collected, the amount of time you've spent in the dungeon, and you get a 1-up. And then it warps you back to the front of the dungeon and you just go back to the main city. But here's another chest. We see a donkey inside. He seems to recognize me. And he seems to recognize the fact that I am Space Sheriff Zero. Turns out he is another space sheriff who was chasing after Demi, but somehow got stuck in the body of a donkey. A trusty old burro. I'm sorry I butchered that word in Spanish. I will refrain from trying to speak any other language from now on. So obviously we're upset with him for being reckless, for chasing after Demi all by himself, not sticking with us, and for getting trapped in the body of a donkey, who seems to be bowing down to us at the moment. But he joins us anyway. Oh, but he prefers to be called by Robaton from now on. I know I said I'd refrain from Spanish, but that one's just easy. Robaton. It's fun to say, too. So basically, now on the world map, occasionally when we kill enemies, they will drop a carrot. And when we pick up the carrot, Robaton will join us, and we'll get to ride him around. It's basically invincibility. Unfortunately, he cannot go into dungeons, nor can you really attack things aside from running them over. So, and there's no way to get off him before time runs out. So sometimes he's useful, other times it's a pain. And I think we see at least one of each over the course of this Let's Play. So now that we've got our trusty donkey, and we've destroyed the boss of the first dungeon, now all that's left to do is to go back to town and claim our reward. Fortunately, town is pretty close, and I believe it's just one screen away now. There's where Zero crashed, where the other guy, I forget his name, Garrow, actually, is trying to fix up their ship. And so now let's go collect this reward. And the sheriff is obviously surprised that a little kid like us could take down a Demi-Seed boss, which no adults in the town were actually able to take care of, which is surprising because he was such a joke. If they had weapons like the man at the gun store used to, I really don't see why it would be such a problem. I took the guy out with a frickin' squirt gun, for God's sakes. Anyway, so the sheriff talks about this mysterious cloudy mountain right in the middle of the world map, and wouldn't you know it, he has a hypothesis that he believes it's Demi's hideout. I guess we'll test the validity of this later, but it seems pretty obvious, don't you think? So now I believe, yeah, he tells us where to go, a little cave to the northwest. So now we'll get to go to the other side of the village, or rather, out the other exit to the village, and go explore more of the world in the next video. First, we get our $200 for defeating Miracle 5. You know, if that guy was named Miracle 5, I mean, whatever happened to Miracles 1 through 4, huh? I mean, if they were even more pathetic than that, that's just kind of sad. So anyway, now we're gonna go to the gun store to talk to the owner and have him teach us how to use a couple new weapons, which will be very helpful to us on our journey. So basically now all of a sudden the entire town knows that we've taken out a Demi-Seed boss. So now everyone likes us a little more, and this guy is willing to help us out. So I believe now he teaches us to use, let's see, the machine gun and also the shotgun. The machine gun is probably the second or third best gun in the game, and the shotgun is my least favorite. I mean, I guess it's better than... Actually, no, I think later in the game I'd actually rather have our base weapon than the shotgun. I mean, the shotgun is basically a spread shot, kind of like in Contra, but it's, unlike Contra, it's pretty bad. And I get it a couple times to show it off and stuff, but for the most part I don't even bother. So, wrapping things up now, the last thing to do in this video is to go talk to Dad, who kicked us out of the house in the first video, and see if he'll welcome us back now that we've defeated a Demi-Seed boss. So now, being the silent protagonist that we are, for the most part, we tell him via the fanfare and dancing around that we've killed the Demi-Seed boss. And then we show actual proof. And now it seems as though he's willing to accept us back in the house, and things seem better between us now. And that'll just about do it for this video, episode 2 of this Let's Play. I'd like to thank you all for watching, as always, and have a great day. Now, the last thing we need to do is save and get out of here. Tune in soon for episode 3, where I'll go take out the second dungeon, and we'll be about a quarter of the way through the game. Alright. And of course, as always, thank you for watching. Have a great day.